Kore Mapenduga and welcome to Africa Good Morning, the show where we will be bringing you the latest news in Africa and beyond. My name is Glenora Shipura, joined by Diana Master. Good morning, beautiful.
Top of the morning to you. How are you, beautiful?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. Yes, I like this kind of compliments, and it's technically a Friday. Right?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, technically it's a Friday.
Yes. Long weekend.
Yes.
I love that. You look gorgeous in black and really
Thank you.
makes your skin pop.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. Kenyan school closed after student's death. UN extremely worried about Rwanda asylum plan. Uganda will send soldiers to Moscow to defend Putin if need be. We're also going to be speaking to Talent Gore in Harare, and she's going to be catching us up on the latest stories stemming from the House of Stone. Stick around, we'll be back with our top stories right after this.
Ohole So Nice is an entertainment show brought to you by the youth for the youth. This is a dating show that allows individuals to participate and be their own true selves. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na.
Namibia sonder grense vertel weekliks die stories van Namibiërs wat oor see of elders in die buiteland werk. Die program nooi jou om saam te reis na nuwe bestemmings en meer oor ons mense, hul lewens, talente, sienswyse en Namibië se trotste wêreldwye voetspoor te leer. Volg Namibia sonder grense op Netwerk TV, NTV, Oneuptwo.com en Republikeinse Facebookblad. Namibia sonder grense handel oor uitreik, gesels, reis en wenke en soms toer ons na besienswaardighede in die land waar ons kuier. Kontak grense@synergy.com.na en vertel ons van Namibiërs wat jy oor see ken of om jou reisprodukte te adverteer. Namibia sonder grense, ons land oral in die wêreld.
You are still watching Africa Good Morning. Let's get into our top stories. Government officially ends state of disaster for power crisis. Government has officially terminated the national state of disaster it implemented just under 2 months ago to deal with SA's energy crisis. Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Thembi Kadimeng, said in a gazette published just before noon on Wednesday that the state of disaster was terminated. All regulations and directions made in terms of Section 27 of the National Disaster Act pursuant to the declaration of the national state of disaster to deal with the impact or the severe electricity supply constraint is hereby repealed with immediate effect. This comes after Finance Minister Enoch Godwana told MPs on Wednesday that he decided to withdraw the exemption of Eskom from the Public Finance Management Act for now to have further consultation with the Auditor General and Eskom's auditors. A special government gazette issued by Godwana on Friday exempted Eskom from reporting on its annual financial statements on wasteful and irregular expenditure that did not arise from corruption. This has been widespread criticism of the exemption, which aimed to assist Eskom achieve an unqualified audit and boost its credit ratings.
Now moving over 34 criminal charges against President Donald Trump. Former U.S. President Donald Trump faces 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree, felony charges that could land him in prison for up to 4 years on each count. That's according to a newly unsealed indictment issued by a New York grand jury last week. The indictment marks the first time in U.S. history a current or former U.S. president has been criminally charged and comes as Trump seeks the Republican nomination in the 2024 U.S. presidential election. The charging document was made public Tuesday afternoon after Trump made his first appearance in the Manhattan Supreme Court, where he entered a plea of not guilty to all charges. The charges stem from a hush money payment that Trump's then lawyer, Michael Cohen, made during the 2016 presidential campaign to an adult film actor who claimed she had a sexual encounter with Trump a decade earlier. Prosecutors say the $130,000 payoff was part of an illegal scheme to suppress stories that could damage Trump's candidacy. The scheme involved Trump Cohen and David Pecker, the publisher of the National Enquirer tabloid, who bought the rights to several stories and never published them. As part of the scheme, prosecutors say Pecker, a longtime Trump friend, made 2 other payments, one to former Playboy model and another to former Trump Tower doorman who claimed Trump had fathered a child out of wedlock, an account that turned out to be false.
In our next story, Liberia parties signed peace pact ahead of October polls. Political parties in Liberia on Tuesday signed a peace accord to prevent violence ahead of October presidential and legislative elections. President George Weah said the accord signed by 26 political parties shows the country's commitment to national stability during the polls. History has taught us that the risk of post-conflict countries to regress to war is extremely high. By any account, therefore, Liberia is a post-conflict success story, Mr. Weah said. The pact obliges signatories and their supporters to uphold peaceful elections and resort to constitutional means if they are dissatisfied with the electoral process and outcomes.
Now moving over, South African activists demonstrate against Uganda's anti-gay bill. More than 200 activists gathered outside the Ugandan High Commission in South Africa to demonstrate against the anti-gay bill recently passed by Ugandan lawmakers. The activists, led by South Africa's leftist Economic Freedom Fighters opposition party, urged Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni not to sign the bill into law. You know, they're preaching hate, hate crimes and like preaching genocide onto our queer bodies, but we are humans first, So yes, I'm scared because my family is still at home. So visibility without protection is also a dead sentence, said Ugandan queer activist Papa Day. Homosexuality is outlawed in Uganda, but the recent bill has introduced a harsh punishment for several acts, including the death penalty and up to 20 years imprisonment.
The UK government sets out new water plan to tackle pollution. Britain on Tuesday announced a plan to protect water supplies amid a long-running scandal over privatized water firms pumping raw sewage into rivers and onto seashores. The plan comes amid a continuing pollution scandal which saw wastewater discharges spark the closure of a number of UK beaches at the height of the heatwave last summer. The Conservative government said its proposals would clean up our waters and ensure a plentiful supply for the future. The plan for water will seek more investment from water companies, stronger regulation, and tougher fines for polluters. It added the initiative includes a consultation on a ban on wet wipes containing plastic, which are blamed for causing sewer blockages when flushed down the toilet, and it will bring forward 1.6 billion euros of water infrastructure investment to start between now and 2025, although opponents argued this was not new cash. The announcement received a cautious welcome from some quarters, but was condemned as little more than window dressing in others.
And now bringing us to the end of our top stories, MPs demand action against people named in CAG reports. Members of Parliament on the 4th of April 2023 called for action against those mentioned in the Controller and Auditor General reports, which expose the misuse of public funds. Receiving the reports at State House in Dar es Salaam last week, President Samia Suluhu Hassan expressed her disappointment with the reports, saying we are killing our own country. Her remarks were followed by the ruling Chama Cha Mapinduzi party calling for action against the perpetrators of the embezzlement of public funds and shoddy contracts. But winding up the debates, the Parliament Speaker, Dr. Tulia Axon, reminded MPs that under the modus operandi, the CAG's report will have to be scrutinized by a parliamentary committee and that those implicated be grilled before a decision is reached. The report, upon reaching this House, will be sent to relevant watchdog committees where it will be scrutinized and the defense of those responsible for institutions that have been implicated heard, she said. He said later the reports of the relevant committees will be presented in Parliament for MPs to debate and advise the government on the right action to take.
We'll be back after the break with more news from Zimbabwe.
NMH at 1 brings you news from all across Namibia. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact nmh1@synergy.com.na. NMH at 1, your lunchtime news companion.
Now, of course, the Al Jazeera documentary on Zimbabwe is getting more intense with more episodes coming up. And now the government of Zimbabwe yesterday said it had launched its own investigations into the corruption allegations raised in the 4-part documentary. Here to give us more on the story, Talent Gore in Zimbabwe. Good morning, Talent.
Good morning, Diana. Good morning, Glenora. How are you doing this morning?
We're doing well. So please tell us about this first story.
Yeah, so the Zimbabwean government has said that it has launched an investigation into people who are involved in gold smuggling and money laundering following the release of an undercover Al Jazeera investigation showing high-ranking officials involved in the illicit gold trade. In a statement released by the Minister of Information, she said that they were not going to leave any stones unturned, and right now they have actually started the investigation. Apparently, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has also frozen 4 accounts of people who are involved in the investigation. They haven't released the names yet, but they've just said that 4 people have had their accounts frozen, and we are yet to see who those 4 are. Apparently, the Al Jazeera Part 2 series today, there's going to be another episode which will be shown today and another one next week. So we're just hoping and we are waiting to see what the documentary has more in store for us. Right now, the government has said that they are investigating the allegations raised in the documentary.
Well, we will definitely look out for episode 3, I believe. Now, getting into your next story, Zimbabwe has recorded a 45% surge in crime. What's going on there?
Yes, Zimbabwe recorded a 40% surge in crime last year after 208,000 criminal cases were reported to the police in the last quarter of 2022 compared to 143,000 in the first quarter of 2022.
I think
This was reviewed by the statistics agency, and the police have said that they are now working hard. They are now working hard to ensure that all the police in the country they are equipped with cars and anything necessary for them to make sure that to combat crime in the country. The statistics revealed that 19 were homicidal cases during the first quarter of 2022, and the majority of cases were acts against public safety and state security. So the police say that they are now working towards ensuring that the crime rate in Zimbabwe decreases instead of increases.
Closing us off, Zimbabwe is on high alert for the Marburg virus. Please get into the details.
Yes, the government of Zimbabwe has taken steps to strengthen the surveillance, particularly at the ports of entry, and has activated response teams following cases of Marburg virus reported in the region. The response plan was announced by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health and Child Care in a statement whereby he said he alerted the public of the current Marburg outbreak affecting Equatorial Guinea and most recently Tanzania. Apparently, Dr. Smith said that the Marburg virus is clinically similar to Ebola viruses. They are caused by the same family of viruses and also causes severe hemorrhagic fever in humans. So right now, the government and the Ministry of Health in particular, they say that they have strengthened surveillance and they are working and they have activated response teams following the outbreak in the region. So right now there is super tight surveillance to ensure that the Marburg virus is contained in Zimbabwe if it so comes to Zimbabwe.
All right, please do keep us informed and do keep us posted on whether or not they actually do discover a case of Marburg virus, which hopefully they do not. Thank you so much, Talent, for bringing us the latest news on the ground in Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
It's always a pleasure having Talent on Africa Good Morning. Now we're going to take a look at the weather predictions and return with our economic news.
Let's get into our economic news. Government insists on cabotage as a valid alternative for transport logistics. The Mozambican government is pushing forward with legal and fiscal incentives to help cabotage coastal freight shipping attract operators interested in exploring transport alternatives, considering the local relevance of rail and port services. These are statements made this Thursday to journalists by the Deputy Minister of Transport and Communications, Hamilton Allison, who made known the government position at the 26th Council of Directors of the Railways of Mozambique in Matimbane, Nampula province. The focus is on finding mechanisms to make cabotage competitive. Coastal shipping is being branded as Road Number 0 in imitation with the road and rail corridors already in operation. Our corridors were essentially designed for the transport of cargo, which is why this service at the moment bears a lot of responsibility in the country, Deputy Minister Allison said. The minister highlighted some of the measures taken by the government as part of this ongoing approach. The government has been implementing different measures to ensure that cabotage becomes as competitive as possible.
Now, U.S. startup Cobalt Metals appoints female CEO at Zambian copper unit. Silicon Valley startup Cobalt Metals, which uses artificial intelligence to identify battery metal deposits, has appointed a woman as CEO of its copper unit in Zambia, making her the country's first female head in a mining exploration company. Top female executives at global metals and mining companies held just over 11% of C-suite positions in 2022. Data from S&P Global Market Intelligence shows. In Zambia, Africa's second largest producer of copper, which is in high demand for the transition of a low-carbon economy, Mfikeli Makai will be the most senior woman yet in the mining sector. I'm the first Zambian woman running an exploration or even a mining company in the country. Mining is something that will drive our economy into the future if we get this right, Makai told Reuters in an interview.
Let's take a look at our economic indicators before we get into your sports news.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news and starting off with soccer news. The English Premier League midweek games that was played and not good results for the three teams that's trying to avoid relegation. It was firstly Leeds that beat Nottingham Forest, and that was at Leeds. The score there was 2-1. Then it was Bournemouth that lost at home, and that was a game they played against Brighton. That was at the Vitality Stadium, and they lost that game by 2-0. So Bournemouth still in the bottom three. Then also Leicester City, they played at home. They've got a new coach. Their coach was fired in the week, and it is Leicester that lost that game close to the end. Right at the end, they lost it to Aston Villa, and the score there was 2-1. So it was Leicester City's 6th defeat in 7 games. So not a good spell for them at the moment, and they're second from last. The bottom three at the moment, in 18th position, it is Bournemouth with 27 points, then Leicester City with 25 points, and then at number 20 is Southampton with 23 points. All three of these teams have played 29 games at the moment, and it's quite close from position number 13th to number 20th. There's not many points difference. In fact, number 13th on the list is Leeds at the moment. They're there with 29 points. At the top of the table, it's still Arsenal. They've got 72 league points after 29 games, and then Manchester City 64 points after 28 games. Moving on to cycling news, it's the Tour de Basque that's taking place. It is in Spain, and it was stage 2. It was a sprint finish to the end. In the end, it was Ida Schelling that won in 4 hours, 53 minutes and 33 seconds. A close finish. So in the same time, in second place, Mathieu Sobrero, and then David Guerra, he was third. The same three have at the moment, after 2 stages, the general classifications number 1, 2 and 3. So it's Ida Schelling leading the Tour de Basque after 2 stages in the general classification combined time of 8 hours, 54 minutes and 47 seconds. And Matteo Sobrero is 4 seconds behind him in second position. The third stage will be more hills, maybe not a sprint finish again. It is 162.8 kilometers. Continuing international sports news with tennis news, it's on the women's WTA tour. It's a WTA 500 tournament, and that's in Charleston in the United States of America. Number 6 seed, that is Victoria Azarenka. She came back with a set down to beat the 2016 champion, that is Sloane Stephens, by 3-6, 6-2 and 6-2. That was in the second round, so she's through to the round of 32. Also through to the round of 32 is the 2019 champion, that's Madison Keys of the United States. She's number 9 seed, and she beat Emma Navarro by 6-4 and 6-3. The number 1 seed in the tournament is Jessica Pegula. She's going to be one of the favorites. She's also through to the round of 32. And also number 2 seed is Ons Jabeur of Tunisia. She's also through to the next round. And closing off today's international sports news is cricket news from the T20 internationals being played in New Zealand. It's New Zealand hosting Sri Lanka. It was Sri Lanka that won the first T20 game. The second one was played in Dunedin, and it's New Zealand that came back strongly. They beat Sri Lanka by 9 wickets. Sri Lanka batting first, 141 in their allotted 20 overs, were actually bowled out in the 19th over, and it was New Zealand that reached the total comfortably, 146 for the loss of only 1 wicket. Biggest run scorer for New Zealand was Tim Seifert, and he scored 79 runs off just 43 deliveries. So it's 1-1 at the moment. Then all to play for the final. The third game in the series will be played on Saturday, and that game will be played in Queensland. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Sport Wrap is a daily show focusing on all sport news and current affairs. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact sportwrap@synergy.com.ma. Sunset News is a daily news show focusing on national headlines as well as international news. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, please contact sunset@synergy.com.na. Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.
You're watching Africa Good Morning. If you're just joining us, let's take a look at the highlights from today's broadcast. Government officially ends state of disaster for power crisis. 34 criminal charges against Donald Trump. Liberia parties sign peace pact ahead of October polls. Government insists on cabotage as a valid alternative for transport logistics.
And with that, we've come to the end of our show. Do remember that Africa Good Morning is repeated on our Oneuptwo website and our DSTV channel 285 and our GoTV channel 94 between 8:30 and 9 a.m. every weekday. I am Glenora Shipura.
And I'm Diana Master, and we do wish you a lovely day ahead as well as safe travels for your Easter weekend.